The ship moved slowly through the darkness of space. Admiral Park Do-yeon stood at the viewing window and watched the massive space station grow larger and larger. Station Apex, the heart of the Galactic Council. For 60,000 years, this place had been the center of power in the known galaxy. And today, for the first time, humans would walk inside its halls. "Admiral, we are receiving docking instructions," said Commander Lee Tai-woo from behind him. Park Do-yeon nodded but did not turn around. He kept his eyes on the station. It was beautiful in a cold way. Metal and glass stretched across thousands of kilometers. Lights blinked like tiny stars along its surface. Ships from hundreds of different species moved around it like fish swimming near a reef. "How do you feel?" asked Dr. Kim Yuna. She walked up and stood beside him. She was the best xenolinguist on Earth. She had spent 20 years learning alien languages, studying alien cultures, preparing for this day. "I feel like we are very small," Park Do-yeon said honestly, "and I feel like that is exactly what they want us to feel." The ship docked without problems. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. On the other side stood their escorts. They were Velok soldiers. The Velok were tall creatures, almost 3 meters high. They looked like insects standing on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in hard black shells. Their eyes were large and showed no emotion. "Follow," said the lead soldier. His voice was sharp and cold. The human delegation walked through the station. Park Do-yeon counted 12 people in his group: diplomats, scientists, security officers, all of them wearing their best uniforms. All of them trying to look confident. But confidence was hard to keep. The aliens they passed did not hide their feelings. Some laughed openly. Others pointed and whispered. A group of small, furry creatures made sounds that the translator in Park Do-yeon's ear turned into cruel jokes about human size and appearance. Dr. Kim Yuna kept her face calm, but Park Do-yeon could see her hands shaking slightly. "Stay strong," he whispered to her. "Do not let them see weakness." The council chamber was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl with seats rising up on all sides. Hundreds of alien species sat in those seats. They were watching, waiting. Some looked curious. Most looked amused. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform. This was where speakers addressed the council. And standing on that platform was High Arbiter Dren of the Velok. He was the leader of the council. His shell was decorated with golden patterns that showed his rank. His voice boomed across the chamber. "The council recognizes the delegation from Earth," he announced. There was laughter in his voice.
Ow.
"Come forward and speak." Park Do-yeon walked to the platform. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He could feel thousands of eyes on him. He stopped and stood straight. "High Arbiter," he began. "Members of the Galactic Council. I am Admiral Park Do-yeon of the United Earth Fleet. I come here today to request membership in this great assembly. Humanity has achieved faster-than-light travel. We have established colonies on 12 worlds. We have come in peace, seeking friendship and trade with all species." He paused. The chamber was quiet. Then High Arbiter Dren made a sound. It took Park Do-yeon a moment to realize it was a laugh. "Membership?" Dren said. Your species learned to walk upright only moments ago in galactic time. Your lifespans are laughably short. Your technology is primitive. Your bodies are soft and weak." More laughter spread through the chamber. Aliens were pointing at the humans now. Some were making gestures that the translator could not explain, but that clearly were not kind. "Your ships," Dren continued, "are the size of our escape pods. Your weapons could not scratch the paint on our hulls. And you come here asking to sit among us as equals?" He leaned forward. His large eyes stared down at Park Do-yeon. "Perhaps when your species evolves past childhood, you may petition again." The chamber exploded with laughter. Park Do-yeon felt heat rise to his face, but he did not move. He waited for the noise to die down. "We have much to offer," he said calmly. "Our scientists have made discoveries that could benefit all species. Our artists create works of great beauty. Our philosophers ask questions that enough," interrupted Consul Oreth of the Moreth. He was an aquatic creature. his body contained in a tank of water that floated beside the Velox section. His voice bubbled through speakers. "This is a waste of time. These creatures are not worthy of conquest, let alone membership." He made a spitting motion. Water sprayed from his tank toward Dr. Kim Yuna. She stepped back, but drops hit her face in uniform. The chamber laughed again, louder this time. Commander Lee Tai-woo moved forward, his hand going to his weapon. Park Do-yeon stopped him with a look. Dr. Kim Yuna wiped her face. She stepped forward to speak, but an ancient crystalline being called Silith raised a limb. This was Elder Voss, the oldest member of the council. "The Morith speaks truth," Elder Voss said. His voice was like glass scraping against stone. "Humanity is too young, too weak, too unimportant. This petition is denied." The vote was quick. All 412 species voted no. Not a single voice supported humanity. Park Do-yeon stood in silence for a long moment. The laughter continued around him. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data chip. He placed it carefully on the speaker's podium. The laughter faded slightly. Aliens looked at the chip with confusion. "What is this?" Dren asked. "A gift," Park Do-yeon said. His voice was quiet but clear. "We came here in peace. We offered our friendship. We asked only for a chance to prove ourselves." He looked around the chamber. His eyes were cold now. "You have chosen otherwise." He turned and walked toward his delegation. Dr. Kim Yuna fell in step beside him. Commander Lee Tai-woo and the others followed. "Is that a threat?" Dren called after them. "Are you threatening the Galactic Council?" Park Do-yeon stopped at the door. He looked back over his shoulder. "It is a statement of fact," he said. "Nothing more." Humans left. Behind them, the chamber filled with laughter once again. High Arbiter Dren picked up the data chip and looked at it. "Primitives," he said with amusement. He tossed the chip to an aide. "File this somewhere or throw it away. It does not matter." The aide took the chip and placed it in a storage box with thousands of other unimportant items. No one checked what was on it. The laughter in the council chamber continued for hours. Stories of the foolish humans spread across the station. By the next day, jokes about Earth were being told on 1,000 worlds. But on one small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy, no one was laughing. Admiral Park Do-yeon stood before a council of his own. His report was simple. They'd made their choice, he said. Now we make ours. And in the darkness of space, something began to change. The recording played on every screen on Earth, every city, every home, every ship in orbit. People watched in silence as aliens laughed at their representatives. They watched Dr. Kim Yuna get spat on. They watched Admiral Park Do-yeon place the data chip and walk away with quiet dignity. When the recording ended, there was silence across the planet. Then there was anger. President Choi Hanna stood in the Great Hall of the United Earth Parliament. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had led Earth through to crises already. She had hoped to lead it through peace. Now she understood that peace was not an option. For 300 years, she said to the assembly, we have dreamed of meeting other life in the universe. We imagined friends, partners, teachers who could help us grow. Instead, we found bullies. We found creatures who see our youth as weakness, our hope as foolishness, our kindness as something to be laughed at. She paused. The hall was completely silent. We offered our hand in friendship. They spat on it. We asked for respect. They gave us mockery. We came in peace. They showed us that peace means nothing to those who see themselves as gods. President Choi Hanna straightened her shoulders. We will not beg. We will not crawl. We will not ask again. From this day forward, humanity will earn its place in this galaxy. And if they will not give us respect, we will take it. Nice. The Parliament voted that night. The decision was unanimous. Project Thunderclap was approved. In the following weeks, things began to change. On the surface, life seemed normal. People went to work. Children went to school. Ships moved between Earth and its colonies, carrying food and goods. But underneath that normal surface, humanity was preparing for war. General Bei Minho was 73 years old. He had retired 15 years ago after unifying Earth's armies under one command. He had hoped to spend his remaining years growing vegetables and reading old books. Instead, he found himself in a bunker deep under the Korean mountains, looking at star maps. "The Council has 412 member species," he said to his staff. "But only about 30 of them have real military power. The rest are small, weak, or peaceful. They follow the strong ones." He pointed to the map. "The Velok are the most powerful. They have the largest fleet and the strongest weapons. The Morith control most of the trade routes. The Silith are ancient and wise, but their numbers are small. If we can break these three, the rest will fall apart." Captain Shinyeonji listened carefully. She was young, only 32, but she had already shown genius in fleet tactics. She had been given command of a special project. A fleet of ships that did not officially exist. "The Ghost Fleet is ready," she reported. 47 ships with the new stealth technology. They cannot be detected by any known sensor system. General Bei Minho nodded. "Good, but we will not strike yet. First, we watch. We learn. We find their weaknesses." For months, human ships slipped through Council space. They looked like traders, tourists, lost travelers, but they were gathering information. Every military base, every supply line, every political conflict, everything was recorded and sent back to Earth. Dr. Song Ji-ho led a different kind of research. He was the head of the xenobiology division. His job was to understand alien bodies. "Look at this," he told his team one day. He showed them medical scans of different species. "The Velok are strong, but their shells are vulnerable to certain frequencies of sound. The Morith need to stay wet at all times. 30 minutes in dry air, and they begin to die. The Silith are nearly immortal, but they grow slowly. It takes them centuries to reach adulthood." He pulled up scans of human soldiers. "Now look at us. We can survive in almost any environment. We heal faster than any species in the Council. We can go without sleep for days. We can eat almost anything. Our bodies adapt to new conditions within weeks." One of his assistants frowned. "But we are weaker, slower. Our lives are shorter." Dr. Song Ji-ho smiled. "Shorter lives mean we have less to lose. And there is something else. Something the aliens do not understand." He showed them footage of human history. Soldiers marching through snow, explorers crossing deserts, people surviving disasters that should have killed them. "We are persistence predators," he said. "Our ancestors hunted by chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We do not stop. We do not quit. We keep coming, hour after hour, day after day, until our prey falls down and dies. That is what we are. And the Council has no idea." 3 months passed. On Station Apex, the data chip sat forgotten in a storage room. No one had looked at it. No one cared. Then a young Silith archivist named Kiv found it. Kiv was not important. He was barely 200 years old, which for a Silith meant he was almost a child. His job was to organize old records. It was boring work. Most of what he found was trash, but the chip from the humans made him curious. He had heard stories about the strange, soft creatures who had come to the Council. Everyone laughed about them. But Kiv wondered, why had they come so far just to be mocked? What had they hoped to gain? He put the chip into his reader. At first, did not understand what he was seeing. Numbers, charts, diagrams, information about every species in the Council. Their military strength, their political leaders, their internal conflicts, their economic dependencies. Kiv felt cold. This was not random information. This was intelligence. Military intelligence. The kind of information you gathered before an invasion? He kept reading. Page after page of detailed analysis. The Velok fuel supplies. The Morith trade routes. The Silith population centers. Everything was there. Everything was accurate. At the bottom of the file, he found a single message. It was written in the Council's own diplomatic code, the formal language used for official communications between species. Kiv read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Declaration of war, effective immediately. The United Earth Government hereby declares a state of war against the Galactic Council and all member species. This declaration takes effect upon delivery of this document. Kiv stood frozen. His crystal body made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. The humans had declared war 3 months ago, and no one knew. He ran from the archive room. His feet clicked against the metal floors. He had to find High Arbiter Dren. He had to warn someone. Anyone. But as he ran, Kiv had a terrible thought. 3 months. The humans had 3 months to prepare. 3 months to position their ships. 3 months to plan their first strike. What had they been doing all that time? Far across the galaxy, Captain Shin-Young-ji stood on the bridge of her flagship. Her ghost fleet hung in the darkness between stars. Invisible, silent, ready. All ships report ready, her first officer said. Shin-Young-ji looked at the tactical display. 3 targets. 3 Velok fuel depots. Each one supplied power to hundreds of warships. Each one was protected by defense systems that should have been impossible to bypass. Should have been. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. Begin the operation.
Oh.
The ghost fleet moved forward, and the war truly began. The fuel depot was enormous. It floated in space like a small moon, surrounded by defense platforms and patrol ships. Inside its massive tanks was enough fuel to power the Velok war fleet for 10 years. It was one of the most protected places in the galaxy, and it was about to disappear, Captain. Captain Shin-Young-ji watched from her flagship as her teams moved into position. The ghost fleet surrounded the depot, completely invisible to Velok sensors. Human hackers had spent months studying the depot's computer systems. They knew every code, every password, every weakness. Team 1. Begin, she ordered quietly. On the depot, nothing seemed to happen. The Velok workers continued their jobs. The patrol ships flew their regular routes. The defense platforms stayed silent. But deep inside the computer systems, something was changing. Human code slipped through the network like poison in blood. It reached the containment fields that kept the fuel stable. It began to change the settings, slowly, carefully, just a little bit at a time. Team 2, ready? The second depot, 3 light-years away, received the same treatment. And the third depot, even further. All 3 attacks happened at the same moment. Now, Shin-Young-ji said, the containment fields failed. The fuel, no longer stable, began to react. The explosions were silent in the vacuum of space, but they were enormous. 3 balls of fire lit up 3 different star systems. When it was over, the Velok had lost 40% of their fuel reserves, and not a single human weapon had been fired. High Arbiter Dren received the news in his private chambers. His shell turned pale with shock and rage. How? He demanded. Our security was perfect. Our systems were protected. His advisors had no answers. They had no idea what had happened. The computers showed no signs of attack. The sensors had detected nothing. It must be sabotage, one advisor suggested. Someone inside our organization? Dren's eyes narrowed. Who benefits from our weakness? The answer was obvious. The Morith had been competing with the Velok for centuries. They controlled the trade routes that the Velok needed. If the Velok fleet was stuck without fuel, the Morith would gain enormous power. Contact the Morith ambassador, Dren ordered. I want answers. The Morith denied everything, but Dren did not believe them. Old grudges began to surface. Arguments that had been buried for thousands of years came back to life, within weeks. The Velok and the Morith were barely speaking. Their alliance was cracking, and it got worse. Human-funded pirates began attacking trade routes. They stole cargo. They destroyed ships. They vanished before anyone could catch them. The pirates seemed to know exactly which ships carried the most valuable goods. They seemed to know exactly when defenses would be weakest. The Morith blamed the Velok for not protecting the routes. The Velok blamed the Morith for hiring the pirates themselves. The Silith tried to make peace, But no one listened. General Bei Minho watched the reports from Earth and smiled. Phase 2's working, he told President Choi Hanna. They are fighting each other now. By the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late. And if they figure it out, the president asked. Then we move to Phase 3. Direct action. On Station Apex, Kiv finally reached High Arbiter Dren. It had taken him days to get an audience. No one wanted to listen to a young archivist with wild stories about human threats. You are telling me, Dren said slowly, that those primitive creatures declared war on us? 3 months ago? Yes, High Arbiter. It was in the data chip they left. I translated it myself. Dren laughed. It was a harsh, angry sound. And what war have they fought? We have seen nothing. No attacks. No ships. Nothing. Kiv hesitated. The fuel depots, High Arbiter, the pirates, the trade disruptions. What if that was them? For a moment, something flickered in Dren's eyes. Doubt, fear. Then it was gone. Possible. Those primitives do not have the technology. They do not have the intelligence. They are nothing. He waved a limb dismissively. Go back to your archives, little one. Leave military matters to those who understand them. Kiv left. But he was not satisfied. He began his own research. He gathered every piece of information about humanity he could find. Their history, their wars, their technology. The more he learned, the more frightened he became. Meanwhile, Dr. Kim Yuna prepared humanity's next move. She sat in a broadcast studio on Earth, cameras pointed at her face. Ready when you are, Doctor? The technician said. She took a deep breath. The message she was about to send would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every species would hear it. Every world would see it. My name is Dr. Kim Yuna, she began. I speak for the people of Earth. 3 months ago, we came to your council seeking friendship. You laughed at us. You insulted us. You called us primitive and weak. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Perhaps you were right. We are young compared to you. Our ships are small. Our weapons are simple. Our bodies are soft. She paused. But you made a mistake. You forgot what makes us dangerous. It is not our technology. It is not our weapons. It is who we are. Images appeared on screens across the galaxy. Human history. Wars fought against impossible odds. Cities rebuilt after destruction. People surviving disasters that should have killed them all. We do not give up, Yuna continued. We do not forget. We do not stop. Our ancestors hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We are persistence predators. And now, we are hunting you. She leaned forward. Your fuel depots are gone. Your trade routes are chaos. Your alliances are breaking. And this is only the beginning. We have studied you for 40 years. We know your weaknesses. We know your fears. We know exactly how to hurt you. Her eyes seemed to look directly at High Arbiter Dren. You called us children. But children grow up. And when they do, they remember who hurt them. She stood. This is not a threat. It is a promise. We offered peace, and you refused. So now there will be war. And it will end only when you give us the respect we deserve. Not because we asked for it, because we earned it. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, there was silence. Then panic. Alien governments began demanding answers. How had the humans attacked without being detected? How had they known so much? How could such a young species be so dangerous? High Arbiter Dren finally looked at the data chip himself. He read every page, and for the first time in his long life, he felt real fear. The humans knew everything. Every weakness, every secret, every fault line in the council's structure. He called an emergency meeting of the council. For the first time in 60,000 years, all 412 species agreed on one thing: the humans had to be stopped. Whatever the cost. But on Earth, General Bei Minho was already preparing for the next phase. And Captain Shin Youngji's ghost fleet was moving into position around the E Sol system, The real battle was about to begin. 10,000 ships gathered at the edge of Council space. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Velok battleships with cannons that could crack planets. Moreth carriers filled with fighter craft. Silith command vessels, older than human civilization. Ships from 100 different species, all united for one purpose: destroy Earth, end the human threat forever. High Arbiter Dren stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. He looked at the fleet surrounding him and felt satisfaction. No force in the galaxy could stand against such power. The humans had been clever, yes. They had caused damage. But cleverness meant nothing against overwhelming strength. Set course for the Sol system, he commanded. Maximum speed. We end this today. The fleet moved. Space itself seemed to bend as 10,000 ships entered faster than light travel together. In 3 hours, they would reach Earth. In 4 hours, humanity would be a memory. Admiral Park Do-yeon received the alert on his own bridge. He had been expecting this. He had been preparing for this. How many? He asked. 10,000, sir? Maybe more. Park Do-yeon nodded calmly. His fleet numbered just over 1,000 ships. 10-to-1 odds. Some commanders would have surrendered. Some would have fled. Park Do-yeon smiled. Signal all ships. Prepare for Operation Broken Gate. The alien fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Before them hung Jupiter, Saturn, and the distant glow of Earth's sun. They expected to find a desperate enemy waiting to beg for mercy. Instead, they found the human fleet arranged in perfect formation. Small ships, yes. Fewer ships, certainly. But arranged with such precision that it was almost beautiful. They are insane. Consul Oreth laughed from his water tank. 1,000 ships against 10,000? They will be dust in minutes, High Arbiter Dren agreed. All ships attack formation. Destroy them. The alien fleet surged forward. Weapons powered up. Targeting systems locked on. Victory seemed certain. Then the asteroids exploded. The alien fleet had not noticed them. Thousands of rocks floating in space, looking completely natural. But each one contained a nuclear device. And each one was controlled by human computers. The explosions tore through the front lines of the alien fleet. Ships vanished in balls of fire. Others were thrown off course, crashing into their neighbors. In the first 30 seconds, the aliens lost 800 ships. What is happening? Dren screamed. Before anyone could answer, the human ships attacked. But they did not fight like normal warships. They fought like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Small drones launched from human vessels. Thousands of them. They did not carry weapons. Instead, they carried themselves. They flew directly at alien ships and attached to their hulls like parasites. Then they exploded, punching holes in armor and braking systems. Suicide weapons, Elder Voss realized. They are using suicide weapons. The concept was strange to most aliens. Their cultures valued preservation above all else. Wasting resources on attacks that destroyed the attacker was considered primitive, barbaric, but it was terribly effective. Lieutenant Kong Nari led her fighter squadron through the chaos. She was 30 years old, born on Busan Colony, and she had been flying since she could walk. Now she flew toward the biggest target on the battlefield, the Eternal Victory. Dren's flagship, squadron, follow me, she ordered. We're going inside. Her pilots did not hesitate. They trusted her completely. 12 fighters dove toward the massive battleship, dodging fire from defense guns, weaving between explosions. The flagship's hangar bay was open. Alien fighters were launching to join the battle. Nari saw her chance. Now, her squadron flew directly into the hangar. Inside, they landed hard, their ship sliding across the metal floor. Before the aliens could react, the pilots were out, weapons in hand. The Velok were bigger, stronger, better armed. But the humans were faster, more adaptable, and completely without fear. Nari shot 2 Velok guards before they could raise their weapons. Her team moved through the ship like water through cracks. They knew exactly where to go. Human spies had mapped every corridor, every room, every weakness. "Bridge is this way," Nari said. "Move." Outside, the battle continued. Admiral Park Do-yeon commanded his fleet with cold precision. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the plan. "Focus fire on the Morith carriers," Park Do-yeon ordered. "Without their fighters, they are helpless." Human ships moved in perfect coordination. They targeted weak points. They attacked in groups, then scattered before the enemy could respond. They used the debris of destroyed ships as cover, and they never stopped. When one ship was damaged, another took its place. When a squadron was destroyed, another appeared. The humans fought with a ferocity that terrified the aliens. General Bae Minho watched from Earth, directing the overall strategy. "They expected us to be afraid," he said quietly. "They expected us to run. They do not understand. We have already accepted that we might die. That makes us free." On the Eternal Victory, Nari and her team reached the bridge. They planted charges on the doors. The explosion was loud. When the smoke cleared, Nari walked onto the bridge with her weapon raised. Alien officers froze. High Arbiter Dren turned slowly to face her. "You," he said. There was something like respect in his voice. "You flew into my ship. Through my defenses, into the heart of my fleet." Nari kept her weapon pointed at his head. "We are persistence predators," she said. "We do not stop until we catch our prey." Dren looked at the young human woman. She was small, soft. By every measure, she should have been no threat to him at all. But here she was. Standing on his bridge, her weapon aimed at his face, her eyes showing no fear. "You have captured me," Dren said. "What now? Kill me? My death will change nothing. My fleet will still destroy your planet." Nari smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Look outside." Dren turned to the viewing screens. What he saw made his shell turn pale. His fleet was burning. Everywhere he looked, alien ships were damaged, destroyed, or retreating. The human ships moved through them like hunters among wounded animals. And the battle had lasted less than 2 hours. 6,000 ships, Nari said. "That is what you have lost. 6,000 ships against our 200, and we are still fighting." She lowered her weapon slightly. "You can continue this battle. You can destroy us all. But how many more ships will you lose? How many more soldiers will die? And for what? To defeat an enemy you called primitive." The bridge was silent. Dren looked at his burning fleet, at the human woman standing before him, at the ruins of his certainty. "What do you want?" he asked. "The same thing we wanted 3 months ago," Nari answered. "Respect." The battle ended for hours later. The alien fleet retreated, carrying its wounded and its shame. They had come with 10,000 ships. They left with 4,000. Admiral Park Do-yeon broadcast a message to the retreating fleet. "Return to your worlds. Tell them what you saw. Tell them what you learned. Tell them that humanity remembers. And tell them this: we did not want this war. You forced it upon us. But now that it has begun, we will finish it. On our terms, not yours." On the Eternal Victory, High Arbiter Dren was led away as a prisoner. The most powerful being in the galaxy, captured by creatures he had called children. Kiv watched the reports from Station Apex. He had tried to warn them. No one had listened. Now the galaxy would never be the same. But as he watched the footage of human ships, of human soldiers, of human determination, he felt something unexpected. Hope. Because if these small, soft, short-lived creatures could challenge the oldest powers in the galaxy, then perhaps anything was possible. Perhaps the galaxy could change. Perhaps it could become something better. He began to write a message to Earth. It was time to choose a side. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Seoul. 1 year of change. 1 year of rebuilding. 1 year of becoming something new. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Its headquarters on Station Apex now housed a different organization, the Galactic Assembly, a place where every species, regardless of age or power, had an equal voice. A place built on respect instead of fear. Dr. Kim Yuna stood at the speaker's podium, the same podium where she had been spat on 12 months ago. But now she was not begging for membership. She was the first high speaker of the assembly, elected unanimously by the very species that had once mocked her people. Today, she said, we remember. We remember the mistakes of the past. We remember the arrogance that almost destroyed us all. And we remember the price that was paid. The chamber was full. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in seats that had once been arranged by power and prestige. Now they were arranged in a simple circle. No one above, no one below. Humanity did not want this war unit continued. We came seeking friendship. We came seeking partnership. We came believing that intelligence beings could work together, could learn from each other, could build something greater than any single species could achieve alone. She paused. We were right, but we had to prove it in the hardest way possible. In the audience, Admiral Park Do-yeon sat in a simple seat near the back. He had refused all honors. He had refused all titles. When the war ended, he had asked for only one thing: to go home. Now he lived on a small farm in the Korean countryside. He grew rice and vegetables. He watched the stars at night. Sometimes reporters came to ask him questions about the war, about his victories, about what it felt like to defeat the greatest powers in the galaxy. His answer was always the same. They chose this. We finished it. That is all. He rarely smiled. The war had cost too much for smiles. 30,000 human lives. 30,000 sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, friends and lovers. Each one remembered. Each one honored. Each one missed. But the farm brought him peace. The simple work of planting and harvesting. The quiet nights listening to insects sing. The knowledge that his people were finally safe. General Bae Minho had found a different kind of peace. After the war, it created the Interstellar Peacekeeping Corps, an organization dedicated to protecting the weak regardless of species. Human and alien soldiers trained together. They learned each other's languages, customs, and fighting styles. They became something new, something the galaxy had never seen. War is easy, Minho taught his students. Any fool can destroy. The challenge is to protect, to build. To create something worth defending, students came from 100 worlds. Young Velik, who had grown tired of their empire's arrogance. Morith, who wanted more than endless trade wars. Silith, who saw the wisdom in change. And humans? Always humans. Teaching, learning, leading by example. Captain Shinyeonji stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Dawn's Hope. It was larger than her old ship. Faster, better equipped. But its mission was different. No longer hunting enemies, now seeking new friends. The exploration fleet was about to leave known space. Beyond the borders of the old Council territory lay unknown stars, unknown worlds, unknown species who had never heard of the Galactic Council or its war with humanity. Are you ready? Her first officer asked. Shinyeonji looked at the stars through the viewing window. So many stars, so many possibilities. I have been ready my whole life, she said. Before leaving, she had visited Earth one last time. She had gone to the Memorial Wall in Seoul, a black granite monument stretching across an entire plaza. 30,000 names carved into the stone. Every human who had died in the war, she had found one name near the bottom. Lieutenant Kong Nari, the pilot who had captured High Arbiter Dren, the hero of the Eternal Victory. She had died 3 months after the battle, in a skirmish near the border. One of the last casualties of a war that was already ending. Shinyeonji had placed her hand on Nari's name. We did not fight because we hated them, she had whispered. We fought because we loved us. Now, standing on her bridge, she remembered those words. They were why she had chosen exploration instead of retirement. Because the best way to honor the dead was to build a future worth living. "Set course for the unknown regions," she ordered. "Maximum speed." The Dawn's hope jumped to faster-than-light travel. Behind it, the Sol system grew small, then disappeared entirely. Ahead lay infinity. On Station Apex, Kiv worked in his new office. He was no longer a simple archivist. He was Earth's first alien ambassador, the youngest ambassador in the Assembly, and perhaps the most important. Visitors came to him every day. Aliens who wanted to understand humanity, who wanted to know how such a young species had achieved so much, who wanted to know the secret of human success. Kiv's answer was always the same. "I reviewed their history," he would say. "I studied their past, and I learned something that the Council never understood." He would pause, letting his words sink in. Humans have been underestimated before. Many times. They have been mocked, invaded, enslaved, and broken. Their own history is full of such moments. Times when everything seemed lost. Times when surrender seemed like the only option. His crystal body would shimmer with light. And every single time, they rose again. Stronger, more determined, more dangerous. Not because they are special. Not because they have magic or advanced technology. But because they refuse to give up. Because they would rather die fighting than live on their knees. He would look at his visitors with his ancient eyes. The Council made the oldest mistake in the galaxy. They forgot the most dangerous creature in the universe as one with nothing left to lose. Humanity had nothing. No power, no allies, no respect. They had only themselves, and it was enough. High Arbiter Dren sat in his cell and thought about these things. He had been treated fairly. The humans had not tortured him or humiliated him. They had given him comfortable quarters, good food, and access to books and news. They had treated him with more respect than he had ever shown them. That perhaps was the worst punishment of all. He had spent his whole life believing in the natural order of the galaxy. The strong ruled. The weak served. That was how things had always been. That was how things should always be. But the humans had shown him a different truth. Strength was not just about size or weapons or age. Strength was about will. About refusing to accept defeat. About fighting even when victory seemed impossible. The humans had been weak by every measure he understood. And they had still won. Sometimes late at night, he wondered what would have happened if he had made a different choice. If he had welcomed the humans instead of mocking them. If he had offered friendship instead of insults. If he had seen their potential instead of their limitations. But it was too late for such thoughts. History could not be changed. Only the future could be shaped. And the future, he realized, belonged to creatures who refused to be mocked, who refused to be dismissed, who refused to accept anything less than respect. On Earth, children played in parks and went to schools and dreamed of stars. They learned about the war in history classes. They visited the memorial wall on field trips. They looked up at the night sky and saw not emptiness, but possibility. One day, they would travel to those stars. They would meet new species and face new challenges. They would carry humanity's spirit with them to the farthest reaches of the universe, and wherever they went. They would remember the lesson their ancestors had taught the galaxy. Never underestimate a human. Never mock their dreams. Never assume they will accept defeat, because humans do not give up. Humans do not forget. Humans do not stop. And the most dangerous creature in the universe is one with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The stars waited, and humanity was coming.